Good evening and welcome to the Bedminster Township Committee. This is our regularly scheduled meeting for July 17, 2023. We've got a couple exciting things to go through tonight. We'll recognize that we have a quorum right now of Township Committee members. Committeeman Stevenson, Committeeman Hickey here in attendance with me. And right now, attending remote is Committeewoman Renee Moreski. And we do expect that Committeewoman Gina Fernandez will be joining us shortly. Ms. Ray, may we please have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes, Mayor. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News Somerville, Burnsville News Whippany, and to all subscribers, and posted at the Township Municipal Building on January 10th, 2023.
Great. Thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So as we do, we try to promote all the positive and great things that are going on in Bedminster, and sometimes we have to make note of the sad things as well. Two folks who were dedicated to Bedminster Township died over the last week, and I just want to make some remarks about both of them. So first I'm going to start with Joan O'Reilly. Joan O'Reilly was most recently, and for a long time, a member of the Historic Preservation Committee, serving as the chair of the HPC for some years, and was involved in some of the HPC's strategic efforts, including the preservation and the monument posted at the African Burial Ground up in Hillside Avenue. So just some few comments about her. So Ms. O'Reilly died on July 12th. She was 88 years old. And some comments that thank you to current chair of the HBC, Wendy Weinstein. She gathered some comments from those who knew Joan well. And the first is from Marie Crenshaw, the director of the Clarence Dillon Public Library. Joan was with the library from 2006 to 2020. And Marie said, Joan started at the library as a volunteer, helping Helen Peterson in the Children's Library, and then became an employee. She and I worked together many Tuesday evenings and had a few adventures then. Joan was one of the kindest and nicest people I ever knew, and patrons loved her as well as the staff. She was unflappable. Also, she was so kind about recognizing fellow staff members' birthdays. She was talented at making pop-up birthday cards for people and baking them blueberry muffins. She was a native of the Bronx and grew up a couple blocks from Helen Peterson. And just for those who don't remember, Helen Peterson was the children's librarian for years. But her and Helen Peterson never their paths didn't cross until they both moved to Bedminster. Marie goes on, she was a mother of 6, which is probably where she got all her patients in Bedminster. From Mayor Steve Parker, in recognition of Ms. O'Reilly's contributions to the Historic Preservation Committee. I'm so sorry to hear of Joan's passing. She was a vital member of Bedminster's Historic Preservation Commission when I was mayor and helped us get through a controversy regarding the African burial ground on Hillside Avenue near the old town hall. She was all class. She helped us to do right by that burial ground and preserve the land and the story for future generations. Joan was wonderful, a valued member of the community, and will be missed. My condolences to her family. From former committeewoman Stacy Santucci, I'm so sorry to hear Joan's passings. I agree with Mayor Parker that she was kind and a wonderful representative and volunteer for Bedminster Township. She was determined, organized, and dedicated to our township. And from HPC Chair Wendy Hickey, Joan welcomed me to the HPC with open arms. She patiently answered my questions and was happy to share an extensive oral history of Bedminster to bring me up to speed. Her warmth and friendly demeanor were contagious. So thank you all for those great comments, and it's really it's nice to be able to read them in, and condolences to the family. We also recognize the passing of Gary Rupert, and what I'm going to do first, I'm going to just read from Gary's obituary. For those who don't know, Gary was another very important member of the Bedminster community, and we'll go through some of these details. Gary Rupert passed away on Thursday, July 13, 2023, following a courageous battle with cancer. Gary was born in New York on March 2nd, 1954. He attended New Hyde Park High School and graduated in 1971. Following graduation, Gary attended Hofstra University and went on to work at Bankers Trust, where he met his wife-to-be, Shirley Meyer. Shirley and Gary were married in August 1975, and she and Gary raised 3 children, adopting Matthew from Bogota, not New Jersey, but Bogota, Colombia in 1984, followed by Carol, also from Bogota, in 1987. Christopher, their son, was born in 1990. Even though Shirley and Gary divorced in 1995, they remained close friends up until her passing in 2021, and were the most dedicated and loving parents to their 3 children. Gary remarried Catherine Donovan in 1996. Katie and Gary had 3 children, Sarah in 1997, Jennifer in 1999, and John in 2002. They lived in Mahwah and then moved to Bedminster. Gary worked in many roles throughout his career in finance, 21 years with Merrill Lynch as CEO and managing director of portfolio services. He later worked and served as CEO for Metropolitan West Securities, Wachovia Global Securities Lending, and Scotia Capital, and most recently working with the Royal Bank of Canada, Security Lending and Wealth Management Division. In addition to a successful career in securities lending, Gary had passions in farming, woodworking, community engagement, decorating for Christmas, a good practical joke, and being a loving and dedicated father to his 6 children and numerous dogs. Gary ran 3 Meadows Farm in Bedminster and was instrumental in helping that farm become a center for children with autism under the new ownership of the Somerset Hills Learning Institute. He continued to serve this cause as a member of the board of directors for the farm and institute. Gary enjoyed gathering with his friends and family, spending time over home-cooked meals surrounded by laughter and multitudes of Christmas trees. Gary met his current wife, Irene Capicello, when they were friends and colleagues at Merrill Lynch. They married in 2018 and lived in Homedale. Gary is survived by his wife, Irene, the 6 children, Matthew, Carol, Christopher, Sarah, Jennifer, and John, and his 2 stepchildren, James and Simon, his siblings, Betty Moore and Joseph Rupert, and numerous extended family. He was predeceased by his father, mother, brother, and his first wife. In lieu of flowers, the family requests donations be made to the Make More Music Foundation, this nonprofit founded by Matthew, Carol, and Christopher Rupert in honor of their parents, uplifts and education the next generation of young musicians through scholarships, music lessons, free community concert programs, instrument donations, and placements. Donations, can be made at makemoremusic.org. And a little closer to home, other than the obituary, is a letter to the editor that was penned by former Mayor Steve Parker, and many of us who knew Gary endorsed this letter and signed on to it. And it's in the Burnsville News, but I want to read it into the record tonight. To the editor, our world is a better place because Gary Rupert was with us. A successful businessman, Gary and his family came to Bedminster over 20 years ago to provide his young children the experience of life on a working farm. 3 Meadows Farm soon became a success, hosting a popular farm stand and providing ingredients to local restaurants. At the time, local government was characterized by infighting creating turmoil and controversy that resulted in unneeded litigation. Gary led a group, along with Bob Holtaway, that reformed local politics, creating an environment where good schools, low taxes, and open space are our core values. Gary's trademark was his generosity. While he was blessed with great resources, it was his personal generosity that set him apart. With the revival of Bedminster's Fall Fest in 2011, the event needed hay bales, farm tractors, or animals for the petting zoo. Gary was quick to make his available. When the Clarence Dillon Public Library opened their community garden, Gary Rupert was the master gardener who provided personal instruction to the patrons. A few years ago, Gary's life changed and he moved closer to a new job. He sold his farm to the Somerset Hills Learning Institute, providing a working farm for young people with autism to develop skills for future independence. He continued to serve on the board of that organization until his passing. For a busy man, Gary always seemed to have time for you. He would always call you back and treat you like you're the most important person in the world. Oh, and by the way, if you were fortunate enough to spend time with Gary, it was a lot of fun to be around. Gary's legacy will be defined by the many, many people to whom he lent a helping hand over the years. We will sorely miss him and thank his family for sharing him with us. And so Gary was active in local and county Republican politics, but the names that signed on to this letter include Democratic nominees for Township Committee who ran, and his generosity is shared by many in the community. So the signatories to this letter include John Barnack, John Bellardo, Sean Blinn, Jim Brady, Lance and Dion Boxer, Finn and Emily Casperson, Jim and Kathy Christie, Jack Chittarelli, Tony Di Virgilio, Al Gaburo, David and Deborah Grundyke, Carol Gutschall, Colin and Wendy Hickey, Bob and Diane Holtaway, Roman Hinidge, Tim Howes, Larry and Mimi Jacobs, Zahir and Nina Jean, Tess and Rich Johnson, Ron Kennedy, Jeff Leonard, Renee Moreski, Marshall McLean, Joe Metelsky, Bernie and Chris Payne, Steve and Caitlin Parker, Nicole Paulino, George Rogilius, Sally and Mike Rubin, Ed Russo, Anthony Sancelli, Stacy and Drew Santucci, Doug Stevenson, Judy Sullivan, Chris Walker, Dan and Diane Walker, Lisa Pizarro White. So many of these names have been on Township Committee or on Township Committee, or otherwise served or continue to serve Bedminster. The word that Steve put into that letter, generosity, certainly applies. And some of the hidden things that we know about that aren't out there is when we were putting the farmers market together through the operations of Three Meadows Farm, Gary was a very important cog, well, not very important cog, but very instrumental when Renee and I met with him and were looking for outreach to the local farms in Somerset County. Gary made a couple phone calls and made connections immediately throughout the county and advice on moving forward with the farmers market. And anytime there was a question on financing or just local politics in general, you can drive over to Three Meadows Farm, and Gary may have been up at 4:30 in the morning to make it to the securities desk in New York by 6:30, and it might be 8 o'clock at night, and he's sitting there working on his tractor with grease and dirt in his hands and ready to speak into details of whatever the issue was, whether it was local financing or getting help with the county to move forward on open space or farmland preservation. He was there, and as Steve said, giving you full attention. We will miss him, and he's certainly an important member of the Bedminster community. The letter also talks about his participation with Fall Fest. Once again, anytime there was something needed, he was out there. Robin could make a quick phone call and get whatever it is from Three Meadows Farm. He opened the farm up for farm camp, part of the Bedminster Recreation Services, so he would bring dozens of kids into farm camp and just really made everyone feel special, and certainly recognizing what we have here in Bedminster and preserving farmland and that farm lifestyle. Turn to Committeeman Hickey and Committeeman Stevenson and Renee. If there's any comments you want to make while we're still at this point of the meeting.
I think, Mayor, just talking about Gary's generosity with his time, with his talent, with his treasure. You've hit on it, and making Bedminster a better place every day. That's what Gary was all about. So thank you for that wonderful tribute and reading that letter aloud.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to what you set forth, Mayor. It just, Gary made Bedminster better than when he found it. And I think that's the goal that we always talk about up here on the dais, is that, can we, when we leave here, is it better than when we found it? And that's sort of the beacon that we try to follow. And Gary certainly checked that box without question. Sorely missed and huge loss for us.
Yeah. And even after he moved down to Homedale, he still kept tabs on what we were doing up here. And it was quick with a compliment or a comment. Renee, any comments you'd like to make?
I just want to say that all the things you guys have mentioned about him are exactly what I've ever found when I was talking to him. And as you said, he always made you feel important. So even though you knew he was running around a mile a minute doing all these things for his family and the town, he never rushed with you. He would take his time and give you his advice, or just share a glass of wine and relax. He was a wonderful person, and he will be very missed.
Thank you, Renee. We will proceed with the rest of the meeting, and just one quick moment of silence for both Ms. O'Reilly and for Mr. Rupert. Thank you. We have something else exciting. Very exciting.
Now we got the cop promotions.
Yes. So after several years, we are re-engaging the position of police lieutenant. And after interviews with Committeeman Stevenson and I and Chief Bernardo, a recommendation was made back to the Township Committee to promote Thomas Polito from the position of police sergeant to police lieutenant. That recommendation was followed through by the Township Committee, and we passed a resolution naming Thomas Polito as Bedminster Police Lieutenant. So we're going to come in, we're going to do the swearing in ceremony, but just so Tom, you can come on up, bring your family with you.
Gina's logged on. I
And
just tried
Gina's
to get
live.
through security at the
Great.
airport. Now she's logged on.
So Tom Polito is a resident of Warren County with his wife and 2 children. He was hired in Bedminster just a couple of years ago, Tom? Just a few. 1995. That's 28 years with Bedminster Police Department. He was promoted to sergeant in 2021. Now let's go through some of the awards and recognition that Officer Polito received. He was awarded the Life Saving Medal in 2021. He was recognized by the FBI for assistance with an investigation in 2021. He was recognized by the Somerset County Prosecutor's Office for assistance with a search warrant in 2016. He received commendation 1 in 2013 regarding a burglary in progress and the arrest of the suspect. Commendation in 2011 for helping to identify suspects who were vandalizing businesses, churches, and the elementary school. commendation in 2004 for organizing National Night Out in Bedminster, and was recognized as Officer of the Year in 2000. Lieutenant Polito is a firm believer and perhaps, a spark plug for community policing in Bedminster. And Tom, I certainly know that on the community policing aspect, you and Chief Bernardo will make a great team, and you'll have the full support of the Bedminster Township Committee as we also endorse your community policing efforts. So with that, let's do the swearing in. Chief?
Yep.
And holding the Bible for you is my mother, Mary Ann. So hold this. Okay, so left hand.
Yeah,
Robin,
he can't hold that.
Okay.
Hold it up so he can read it.
Okay.
If you want.
We'll do it together like this. So this is the official oath of office. I, Thomas Polito, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of New Jersey. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States. And in this state under the authority, and that I will faithfully, impartially and justly perform all the duties of the office of police lieutenant according to the best of my ability. And I will not use my office to grant preferential treatment, nor to seek personal gain, favor or advantage, not available to the general public, So help me
Just broke him. Speech. Not everybody's a fan.
But wait, there's more. So we are also pleased tonight to swear in 2 new officers to the Bedminster Police Department. First, well, let me just take one step back. We also made a promotion, once again, with Chief Bernardo, Committeeman Stevenson and I, and with Ms. Ray, on sergeant reviews. And the recommendation from the promotional panel was that Officer David Greenstein would be promoted to sergeant. That recommendation also was fully supported by the Township Committee, and that resolution was approved before. However, Sergeant Greenstein is on vacation, and we will do his swearing in at another ceremony in August, right? But we do have 2 officers who are joining us, and we're going to run through some information about them. And first is Officer Philip Caruso. Officer Caruso resides in Monmouth County with his wife and has previous law enforcement, one with the Ocean City, Maryland Police Department, and more recently with the Secaucus Police Department, 4.5 years there, and has experience in the anti-crime unit and the Marine Operations Bureau. We don't have a Marine Operations Bureau here. We do have a couple, rivers that flood every once in a while. So we welcome Officer Caruso. We'll do the swearing in just a little bit. And also joining the Bedminster Police Department is Officer Gabriel Rivera. Officer Rivera resides in Bergen County with his wife and 2 children. And his previous law enforcement experience includes the Newark Police Department, 7 years of experience with the Newark PD, where he was involved with the Detective Bureau and has experience with Vice, ABC, and fugitive units. So congratulations to both Officer Caruso and to Officer Rivera. So Chief, how do you want to do it? You want to separate together?
Separate.
All right, let's do them separate. Okay. Officer Caruso. And you want someone to hold the Bible? Oh, you've already got something lined up. So, same thing. So this is the official oath of office. You've heard this once before. So I, Bill Caruso, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of New Jersey. The United States and the state of New Jersey. That I will bear true faith and allegiance. To the same and to the governments established in the United States. And in this state under the authority. And that I will faithfully. Impartially and justly. Perform all the duties. Of the office of Bedminster Police Officer. According to the best of my ability. That I will not use my office. For preferential treatment. Nor to seek personal gain. Favor or advantage. Not available to the general public. Officer Rivera. Same thing. Okay. I, Gabriel Rivera, do solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution. Of the United States and the state of New Jersey. That I will bear true faith and allegiance. To the same. And to the governments established in. The United States and in this state. Under the authority of the people. And that I will faithfully. Impartially and justly. Perform all the duties. Of the office of Bedminster Township Police Officer.
According to the best of my ability.
That I will not use my office. To grant preferential treatment. Nor to seek personal gain. Favor or advantage. Not available to the general public.
So help me God.
Officers, come on up. Let's get some group photos here with the chief and lieutenant. Oh, come, it's lieutenant. Well, someone's got to be photogenic up there, especially you. You're I think we're all supposed to be taking a picture. Now, the police officers are certainly welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but they don't have to. We have a special presentation tonight by the Historic Preservation Commission. So let me call up to the front of the room our HPC chair, Wendy Weinstein.
Should I face you? Because I'm not doing the presenting.
Well, you can do the introductions.
I will. Mayor Jacobs?
Here, just let's let the rowdy officers head out.
We'll let them go.
Yeah.
You got it.
Oh, congratulations, Officer Beltry.
Kathy, the camera is there. That's the camera. That black box right there. So you can come up if you want. There you go. Now you see yourself.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor Jacobs. I'm Wendy Hickey, the present chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. And Robin Ray brought to our attention that the welcome signs to our bucolic Bedminster were tired and wearing out. As a matter of fact, there are 5 signs. And Robin said it's time for the Historic Preservation Commission to research new signage and to secure donations so that this would not be a burden on the taxpayer. Kathy Christie of the Historic Preservation Commission took on the project. She did the research. She found vendors, she found prices, she talked with the rest of the commission about designs, and you can see the beautiful result of her search. Rob Samet, also of the Historic Preservation Commission, volunteered his time to secure donations. And tonight, the signs have been ordered, and all of our kind donors, Bedminster residents, are here, and I'd like them to stand and be recognized. Kathy and Jim Christie have donated a sign. Also, John and Denise Coates have donated a sign. James and Jane Chesson have donated a sign. And Tim and Aaron Chesson donated 2 signs. So thank you all very much. We're really grateful, and they will be a beautiful addition to our town.
And thank you, Rob, for taking on the task of finding donors and getting the money from them. So thank you, Rob, because I know that's not an easy task. And we certainly do appreciate you taking that on and strong-arming those that needed to be a little stronger there. And thank you to the entire HPC for putting that together for the presentation. And Robin, do we know when they'll actually be installed, once they're delivered?
Once they're delivered, yeah. And
Okay.
then the delivery date is I have to get together with Kathy on that.
Okay.
Then we'll
6
coordinate
weeks?
it.
Okay, so beginning of September, shortly thereafter. That's great. That is great. Thank you very much. We'll move on to public comments. Usually we do public comments right after Pledge of Allegiance, but we did have to take care of that business first. Public comments. If anyone has a public comment they wish to make, they can come up to the microphone up here. For those who are here for the ordinance tonight, there are 2 ordinances. There will be public hearings of those ordinances, and there will be opportunity for public comment during those discussions. And if anyone is participating via Zoom and wishes to make a public comment, take your cursor, scroll down to the bottom of the page, click on reactions, click on raise hand.
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to talk, so I've been doing your town meetings. Okay, is this in reference to the ordinance that I was nailed in, what is it, 13, 8 of 406? closed session, is it best when you talk now or talk after you guys?
You can talk during if it's specifically about the ordinance. You can certainly do so during the public hearing for the ordinance. There'll be the opportunity for public comment at that
Okay,
time.
so that's when I would raise my hand.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And Robin, we do not see any action on the Zoom.
There's no one with a raised
Okay.
hand yet.
Okay. Approval of minutes, we have one set of meeting minutes to approve. That's the July 3rd, 2023 Township Committee meeting. Any comments regarding the minutes? Abstain?
Robin, just one update. The date for the solar eclipse is next year. I think it's April 8th, 2024.
Thank you,
Quick
I'll make that change.
correction.
Seeing none, take a motion to approve the minutes for July 3rd.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain on that, Robin, please?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Aye.
And we have 3 social affair permits to review and approve. First is social affair permit to benefit Far Hills Country Day School, October 23, 2023, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Hamilton Farm Golf Club. Next is a social affair permit to benefit St. Joseph's Health Foundation on September 11, 2023, from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. at Hamilton Farm Golf Club. And the third is a social affair permit to benefit Raritan Headwaters Association on October 1, 2023, from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Fairview Farm Wildlife Preserve. Any questions or comments regarding the social affair permits? Seeing none, take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll proceed with monthly report discussion by subcommittee chairs. We'll start with Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. On DPW, the rented tree, I don't know what you would call it, the apparatus to remove our ash trees has been returned. We might do a second round, but last numbers, we did about 167 trees throughout the township. And they were predominantly, if not exclusively, all of the ash trees that are paving is going to start ramping up here in the August months. I think we're getting ready to do Ski Hills. Some notices are going to be going out to the residents up there about some of the vegetation that's extending into the street to try to get that cleaned up before the crews come through and hack it up with less discerning tools, let's put it that way. And, the various, cleaning of the sub basins will continue on. HPC we've got coming up this week. So that's really all I've got. Looking forward to paving season.
Okay. Committeeman Hickey.
Mayor, we have no Board of Health meeting this week, so no report. And you and I have a library board meeting on Wednesday, so we'll report out after that. So that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Committeewoman Moreski.
Good evening, Mayor. The Environmental Commission had canceled its meeting for this month, so I don't have anything for them. And JVH's meeting will be Wednesday, which I don't think I'll be at, but I will have an update for you of what they discuss at our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Committeewoman Fernandez.
All right, I didn't realize I was unmuted. Thank you, Mayor. We had a preliminary meeting regarding the dog park, but I'll let Robin update you on that. And then we are having a rec meeting tomorrow, but I don't think I'll be in attendance, but I will have an update for you next time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So real quickly, I'll just go over Land Use Board. So at last week's Land Use Board, the Land Use Board did review the ordinance for the changes to the ORV and found it consistent with the master plan. So that's for discussion later, actually probably next on the agenda. And the Land Use Board also continued with their discussions looking at lot coverage with respect to the residential zones. So just as we are taking a hard look at every zone in town, what works and what doesn't work. One of the things that Land Use Board has been focused on is lot coverage and some of the inconsistencies that we've seen across the entire residential zones, where properties are constrained and folks who are trying to do additions or build decks or anything else have run afoul of some of the lot coverage requirements. So the board has tasked the subcommittee and specifically with engineer Paul Ferraro to take a harder look at the lot coverage percentages and come up with an approach that would be uniform, once again, across the entire residential zones we have in Bedminster. So whether you're in VN 100 or VN 2, or you're in the R10, that you'll be able to figure out what your lot coverage will be. And one of the things that was driving this was, looking at some of the requirements. If you're in the R10, you have certain setbacks from roads. If you have a certain setback from a road, that means you're going to devote more land to driveways. And by devoting more land to a driveways for those setbacks, what you're doing is essentially you're limiting how large the house or other improvements can be within the developable area. So there was some consideration that needed to be reviewed. Certainly the Land Use Board had looked at a couple of variances on that very issue, where the driveways themselves were drivers triggering lot coverage variances. So the Land Use Board is tackling that issue, or continues to tackle that issue, and not done with it yet. Probably another couple meetings on that issue, but they may come back with a recommendation to adjust the land use ordinance with those recommendations. So that's to be continued. There was also a hearing of the Board of Adjustment. Committee Hickey and I were not eligible for that, and that regarded some additional uses at the property that was formerly the Lamington General Store. It was not a site plan application, but really just appeared to reflect on adding some additional uses other than the permitted use, which was a antique store. And that is what I have from the Land Use Board. On Farmers Market. Numbers continue to do well, even with the heat we've had over the last 2 weekends. Consistently having 950 attendees coming through. And once again, that was with some unbearable heat and humidity. So once again, thank you to all the volunteers who are out there in the sweltering heat, parking cars and keeping people safe. That's what I have. Ms. Ray, may we have the administrator's report?
Sure, Mayor. Just to break this down by category for HR, we updated all the job descriptions for every position within the township. The last time this was done was in 2001. And on July 6th, we held another department head meeting, and we kicked off employee performance evaluation process, and we expect to be completed by August 21st. July 13th, I attended the Joint Insurance Fund meeting, where it was announced that township managers and supervisors will once again be required to attend the risk management training, which is very helpful. You know that from attending the league. And all employees will need to complete workplace discrimination and harassment training. Regarding the sewer plant grants, we have the county grant and the federal grant. We've been meeting with Peter Black from Dewberry Engineers, as well as Paul Ferrero from Ferrero Engineering regarding the project. And we are now meeting every other Thursday to update each other on progress of the project. We had a call with Christine Ash from the EPA, which is the federal counterpart of that grant, just to discuss some pre-grant award environmental work that we need to do and some required documentation and conditions. Meadow Road County Bridge Replacement Project. There was a meeting last week to update everybody about the project. The bridge will be, well, I should say the project will begin on or about August 1st, which will result in a complete closure with detours. The bridge will be replaced with a precast rigid culvert frame structure with precast wing walls. And it's expected to be completed in January of 2024, about a 6-month closure. And with the reopening on or about January 16th, we've already notified Bedminster Emergency Services, and we'll send out rave messages to residents. Tax insert, I just finalized the tax insert today. On July 11th, we actually received the certified tax rate from the county, and we will be sending that out, we hope, the first week in August. We get the tax bills around the last week in July. July 27th is our expected delivery date, and then we got to stuff the envelopes. And I'll touch on the dog park meeting. I attended the dog park meeting. I was a little bit late for that, coming from another event, but I caught up quickly. The dog park attendees presented a wish list of items that they would like to see improvements to the dog park. We discussed River Road Dog Park and Burnt Mills Dog Park. We talked through the process of how we go about this. And the next steps is to put prices to their wish list so we can speak a little bit more clearly on the matter.
Wasn't there invitation to attend the rec meetings?
Yes, there are several participants that will be at that meeting that will be attending the rec meeting later this week. And lastly, just little fun facts, the Employee Get Fit Walking Challenge. This week we started week 5 of 6 weeks, and employees are encouraged to walk at least 10,000 steps a day. And pleased to report that we have 26 employees participating, with most achieving 10,000 steps a day. So that concludes my report.
How are you doing in that?
I'm in third.
You're in third?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, who's counting?
The guy number 1 is. All right, thank you. We will proceed to ordinances, and our first ordinance for consideration tonight, and we do have 2, is ordinance number 2023-015, an ordinance amending Chapter 13, entitled Land Management Code, to amend Section 13-407 ORV Office Research Village. Take a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So where we, we talked about this for a couple months now. Just as I mentioned earlier, Land Use Board has been looking at different zones across Bedminster, Pluckman and Bedminster Village, the AT&T property, and looking for ways that we can make sure that the commercial districts remain viable, and if there's adjustments that need to be made. These ordinances were drafted a very long time ago, and some of them predate the hills. So we're looking at what needs to be done. And one of the things that we were looking at, certainly as we've looked at creating the ORVMU down in Pluckman, the ORRDOL in the Office Research Development Laboratory space, or the RDOL, Research Development Office Laboratory at the AT&T facility, which will soon be vacant. And now we're looking at the ORV, which really looks at 2 main properties, the one up in Bedminster Village, where the advanced properties, the Forbes building is located, and the Crossroads complex down in Pluckman. So one of the things that we were looking at, and we had asked Paul Ferrero to look at, was the FAR, the floor area ratio. And the floor area ratio there was developed at a time when the idea of suburban office parks were large, sweeping, grass lawns with everything way back from the roads. And looking around New Jersey, we see a lot of those office properties empty and certainly underutilized. And so we're looking at ways that we can make adjustments to these commercial districts, at the same time preserving the character that we have in Bedminster. And it's not an easy task, and certainly a lot of heated discussion, both as the matter went through the master plan, looking at the ORV, And then even in the drafting of the ordinance, as the discussions at the land use board came forward, there were certainly discussions and comments made by residents, and those comments were taken into heart about setbacks and protections. And I think at one of the first meetings that we talked about this, I mentioned that the plan was to actually come up with a more robust and greater set of protections that currently exist now. And I think with the team that put together the ordinance, I think that's been accomplished. During the discussions regarding the ordinance, we also certainly consulted with our colleagues down at the county, and Walter Lane, the Director of Planning for Somerset County, and actually the Director of Planning and Economic Development for Somerset County, is with us. And Walt, just you've got some hope. Well, certainly hope you're feeling better.
Thank you, Mayor.
And if you just want to give us your thoughts.
Sure. As I shared with the land use board, is that these zoning changes are consistent with some of the planning work that we did with the township back in 2017 when we started looking at the AT&T site. So the idea was, to look at how to make it more of a mixed use area, not necessarily with residential, but with a mixture of uses to support, at that time, Malincrop being across the street, having some additional retail. And those trends, we were a little bit ahead of the curve on that. Now with the pandemic and the changing office markets, with remote work becoming more prevalent, these office developments need to reinvent themselves and look at having a mixture of uses there, some sort of retail, some other convenience to support the workers that are on site, but also help lure workers back to the offices. That's what we're seeing a lot. This site is very similar to throughout the county, where this type of zoning change to encourage a mixture of uses on the site to promote the reemergence of the office properties and providing those amenities. That's really what the new employees are looking for when coming back to the office, is amenities on site so they don't have to travel. So if there's some limited retail there with some restaurants and coffee and those types of things, creates more of a vibrant place. And that's similar to what we did with the AT&T campus, with the rezoning that we just completed working with the township over the last year. That's the need, and that's what we're seeing from the planning side as well as the economic development side. When Jessica Paolini, who's our economic development manager, and I receive calls for people looking for space and office space. They want to have office space that has these uses in and around that office space to provide those amenities that I mentioned earlier. So this is, like I said, consistent with what the work the county has done, and we're happy to see Bedminster's moving forward with this, and it's definitely consistent with the standard planning practice that's going on right now and cutting edge, leading redevelopment opportunities in the state. This is very much in line with that.
Great, thank you, Walt. Colin, so you had meetings with some of the residents, and you can quickly walk through how you took those comments and built them into the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think the residents of the properties adjacent to, as you mentioned, the advanced property of Old Forbes site up here had expressed concerns with respect to buffering from their side. In the past, or excuse me, the prior ordinance had 50 feet of buffering. Based on some of their feedback, we decided to double that to 100 feet of buffering. And it also requires that any development there has to have liberally installed trees, shrubs, ground cover to buffer and screen those adjacent lots, those 5 residential lots adjacent to the advanced property. We talked about enhanced rear yard setbacks. 100 feet was provided before, now 150 feet to those adjacent lots as required. And also building height limitation. We heard that clearly that residents did not want to see 3-story buildings adjacent to their properties. So we did a carve out at the advanced site so that within 150 feet to those adjacent lots, no building shall exceed 35 feet in height. So again, as you mentioned, Mayor, this puts in place protections that didn't previously exist. And I think allows whatever development goes on those sites to live comfortably with the residential uses adjacent to them.
Right, so and that last requirement for the planted buffer with trees and shrubs was not in there. So the only thing that really was in the prior ordinance was a 50-foot vegetative buffer, which could be a lawn.
Could be a lawn, could be short shrubs, it could be nothing much. It certainly wasn't providing visual protection.
So that's certainly the approach and the reaction taking into the comments, particularly the Reykjaviks who are out there. And you know, I think working with Attorney Bilardo, I think you guys addressed it. Doug, Gina, Renee, comments, questions?
I don't have any, and I shouldn't be commenting on Advance particularly because they're a client of mine, but I would just say in general, it would apply whether it's Advance or anybody else. I think it's important for those out there listening that one of our calling cards here in Bedminster, one of the things we're very, very prideful over is our low tax rate. And it's one of the things that drives us in the county. And the essential component to being able to provide a competitive tax rate to the residents is that we have our commercial space humming. When our commercial space is fully occupied, the commercial enterprises in our town will take up the lion's share of our tax burden, easing the burden on the residents. So I'm excited just in general for all of the opportunities in town that we have and the loosening up of restrictions to try to promote commercial business here in Bedminster. It can't be stressed lightly. I mean, you can't stress it enough that a robust, humming community, rateable does nothing but help the residents and their tax obligations.
So Doug, since your law firm does have a relationship with Advance, I'm going to ask you to step down and certainly recuse yourself from discussion and certainly the vote, even though this is a ORV change, not necessarily too specific to the Advance property. Certainly it's one of the primary real estate in the ORV other than Crossroads. So I'll turn to John. It's a zone change, certainly not spot zoning, but just ask for your guidance. And
Committeeman Stevenson, since he represents or his firm represents him, should not participate in the public hearing.
Okay.
Or the vote.
Or the vote. Okay. Renee. Gina.
I don't have any questions, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I just want to say real quick that you and Walter have been working on this a long time. And as we've been hearing about what your process is and what the county is helping us achieve, it makes a lot of sense that in order to keep Bedminster a vibrant place, we keep our commercial areas commercial, make them as efficient as we can. That way we don't encroach into our residential area. And I think some of these new ordinances you guys have come up with have done just that. And as Colin was just mentioning, it seems to actually have improved some of the issues that have been brought up by some of the residents. So I'm pretty excited about what's happening between Bedminster and our Somerset County.
Great. Thank you. If there's no further comments from Township Committee, we'll open up the microphone for comments from the public. So raise your hand and come up to the microphone. We're going to need your name once you sit down.
My husband, John Nance.
And street.
Okay. I am Cynthia Hoagland Nance. I'm at 1850 Burnt Mills Road. I've been a resident in this town for about 38 years. I've had 2 farms. All right. I've come to this community because of the horses. I fox hunted with Essex for almost 30-something years. I brought my small business into one of the buildings on this particular farm. I've been in business for 47 years. I'm an art consultant for large corporate collections, and I travel quite extensively. Just a little bit of who I am. I feel I've been a very good resident to this town, and I've been since 2014 working on trying to come up with a retirement plan for my farm. We have attempted to sell it. We have attempted to do different things, to try to take care of it. But as you've all mentioned here tonight, there's things that are always changing. You're talking about these corporate parks and whatever, and you talk about you've got to help them out. Well, I think you have to start worrying about some of your smaller tenants. And one of the big issues we have is that, yes, we are in the R zone, and we've requested numerous times, some of these particular items that you're planning to do with these events, that was told to me by numerous people, and I do have it on record if you want all of my records, that they would never allow it. Let's just start with a few things, okay? First of all, they always said that I originally started in 2014 to see if they would turn my it's approximately 15 acres. I'm sure you are quite aware of where the property is. We started with just trying to do maybe a 55 and older type of community or a assisted living home. That was ruled down, said never happened. We went for a boutique hotel, said it would never happen. We said we'd put townhouses in there. They said it would never happen. Many of the incidences were because of the fact that they didn't want any more schools. I mean, since we don't have a school system up to 8th grade, I believe, I do not have children, so I'm very not aware of all the school systems. But that fact is they didn't want to have more children. They had a lot of children and young people and so forth going to schools in the Hills District. All right, since we've been here, okay, as you know, we have highway and highway. Yes, I bought the property with the highway and the highway, but as you know, in the last 25 years, that traffic has exceeded to a ridiculous amount of traffic that goes on morning, noon, and night. And the trucks go up and down behind us, even though we're elevated, and making noises, ba 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 ba. You cannot keep horses. You cannot have that as a farm any longer. Okay, then Burnt Mills Road, I came to the meeting when the school came in place next to me, okay? I was not notified of the school or the dog park, okay, that these were being placed. I traveled for business normally 3 months, three weeks of every month for many, many years, and I come back and all of a sudden I see construction. I don't quite understand why I never was notified of any of this. I never complained. I allowed it to go through. Okay, the school is a great opportunity there. It's beautiful, it's fabulous. I don't mind my neighbors, ballpark. One of the things that it has caused for me is that I am cut off to the trail network, which is what I came here and I build and I worked with the Holtways, and I have cleared many of those trails to keep these beautiful trails open for everyone to exceed. Now that it's time for retirement and illness has taken a bit of my toll in the last couple of years, okay, I'm getting tired of trying to work with this town about trying to find what's right for this town. Okay, for my piece of property. We've offered to talk about doing an overlay being the fact that people in the audience don't know what that is. If there is a property, okay, in the R10 zone that has a highway on two sides of it, now has a ballpark in front of it, now has an autistic school in front of it, okay, all right, and now has numerous other things being built next to it. Example, the 160 apartments that are being built right across the highway from me. Okay, and I'm sorry to say this, but you know, I'm not a Kirshner, I'm not a big engineer, I don't have the money to fight you guys, okay? But I'm really disturbed by the fact that all the things that I proposed for my piece of property is all going through. And now you're turning around in this 2 ordinance, okay, and saying that you're going to help them out because businesses don't go there anymore. Well, I'm suffering too. The pandemic almost took my company out, okay? I'm a specialty kind of person. I am ready for retirement, and I can't sell this property because no one wants it as a farm. And I asked for many times, I didn't want to fight the time on anything. I said, tell me what the town needs, tell me what you would like, and that's how I will pursue to sell the property. I have mentioned all the aboves. I've now mentioned a historic location. We do have 5 different people that are very interested in developing that. They talked about doing a lovely little town area, you know, in there. They've talked about doing, you know, putting the solar on top of it. Everything that I've talked to, and I know many of you have heard and seen me at different meetings at different times, okay, have said, oh no, we'll never have that. We'll never allow that in the town. We'll never have it. I am not the gateway to the R10, okay? I have been completely surrounded by everything that you guys have chose to put around me, okay? And so to turn me around and say, oh, you're a farm, I am no longer a farm, okay? Okay, I wish I was, because maybe I would have stayed here for the rest of my life, okay? Because the taxes are wonderful. This has been a wonderful community to live for. I am not here to give the town a hardship, all right? I think my record stands that I've been a good resident of this town. I know you did a nice thing recently. There was a lady up on Lambertville Road, I think, and it was the little pottery and the little, you know, antique shop. She's aging out too. What a lovely lady she is. And I congratulate this board that you actually allowed to change her zoning, because antique shops do not exist. You can't sell your antiques anymore. anymore. You can't even give your freaking china and your glasses to your kids anymore. It's a changing world, as you know. It's going to the computers. You're making changes to these corporate parks, but you're not making changes any to your residents that have been here for close to 40 years. And I'm tired of the disrespect that I and other residents have got in this town. Granted, I have a specialty property. It's not the guaranteed. It's not over there. And I would like to be able to find out that I don't feel that this should go through when people like myself are being, in this township and paying the taxes also. And I would like to find out directly, okay, if you're going to put all these amenities at these corporate parks, what does that leave me next to pursue? Do I just leave the property sit there vacant? What would you like me to do? You don't seem to have any
Ms.
answers.
Hoagland, we've met with you.
Yes, you have.
I've met with you, Committeeman Hickey met with you.
Right.
You've had discussions with our municipal engineer
Correct.
over the years. You came to us with,
Right.
you said you entered into a contract, you didn't like the contract. It was something that was probably not going to get built. We told you where we stood on affordable housing. We told you where you are. You're in the R10. You have a residential.
But you've
You have a
devalued my
10-acre
property.
zone. You don't have a water line. You don't have a sewer line.
Okay, we understand that.
And so thank you very much for your comments. And I understand you don't like this ordinance change right now, but this public hearing is on the ORV ordinance. Your comment regarding your property, you have not appeared to the land use board, nor has anyone else appeared to the land use board
I
seeking.
do understand that, sir.
So you have not made any formal application. You've had meetings and you've heard comments. The land use board has the authority to issue certain variances.
Okay, I've
But
asked
you
you
have not
questions to
come
guide
forward
me.
with anything specific
But
other than ideas
sorry.
that you've vouched. So once again, we're on the ORV ordinance. You've given your comment that you don't like it. You think that it's unfair. I understand. Thank you.
Okay, what I am here to say also, okay, is that you don't sort of guide me along as a single resident. What would the town like? So I work with you, then against you, because everything I seem to propose has already been done for me.
And when we met with you, we actually walked through that. So I think
Right, but
we
you
spent
do
about
knock
2
down-
hours with you
That's
talking about what can happen in the R10 and how things that are working around you might work on your property. You also told us what your expectations were, as you mentioned earlier, about your retirement plan. So your retirement plan, and you threw a number out there. And I don't know if that's how you've been marking the property. I checked last night. The property is not currently listed. I'm not sure if you're still under contract or you're out of contract, but it's not listed currently, at least not on the records I checked.
I understand it's not been listed. We've been working with developers who would like to develop it in different ways over these 14 years. And every time we've gotten to a developer and I come, would you accept this? The answer has been no, all right? So I don't
So
want
I've
to spend
had
your
one
time and
meeting,
my time.
I've had one meeting with you,
understand that.
and you
Prior
may
to
have had
you.
meetings with Paul. So
Okay.
once again, do you have anything further on the ORV?
Well, then I'm just basically against it. I think it's too much development into the big market of our corporate market. I understand they help with the taxes and whatever, but I just feel that the town doesn't need this type of stuff.
Okay.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, Ms. Hoagland. The microphone is open. There's a hand.
Evening.
Good
Cheryl
evening.
Roden.
Name and street.
Cheryl Roden, 3 Spencer Lane, Pluckerman. In reading the ordinance, you have a subsection J that at the end of it talks about features to make the development more attractive. And we've been doing some traveling over the past few years and have found a number of places that have really humanized developments by requiring a minimum square footage of what I'll call green community space. So, for example, in some places, they'll have some artwork, which is referred to in here. green space, benches, covered areas. And it seems to me that at this point in time, Bedminster Township could really benefit from adding a minimum required percentage of the land to be this sort of community green space. You know, if you're talking about a commercial corporate building environment where you're providing on-site services, frankly, one of the things that people in corporate like to do is get out at lunch or go out and just be able to sit and think. And I think this ordinance presents a good place to start with that kind of dedicated required space. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just note that I know that's something that Committeeman Hickey also supports.
Absolutely.
And he's worked with our planner and also with our Attorney Bellardo in crafting that J provision to do exactly what you said, to humanize it. It does not impose necessarily a strict land area or percentage of land to be dedicated to it, but all those elements that you discussed were actually are worked into that J paragraph. Reykjaviks? You don't have to.
Yeah, no, I just had a few questions.
Oh,
Yeah,
come on
come
up,
up.
come on up. No, wait, just wait until you get to the microphone.
Sorry.
Have a seat.
I just thought, I know we've talked about it, but I
And just once again, for the record,
yes.
name and street.
Oh, sure. Kelly Rakovic, 121 Somerville Road.
Okay.
I just wondered, like from different residents in our area, you know, we had heard over the years that some of the surrounding like parking lots and just, you know, different changes, and along 206 there's sometimes there can be some concern with water and flooding and drainage at times. So we just wanted to also mention that, you know, some of our concerns also is how any of the building or changes that would happen in the space behind our residents and our, you know, our yards, having it cause any problem with us having an increased amount of water or drainage problems in our yards or in our homes. So, you know, that was just another thing we wanted to, you know, mention again.
So here, you want me to address that? Because I can address it both
Sure.
in my sort of day job hat as an environmental attorney, which is on March 2nd, 2021, the state of New Jersey adopted or actually promulgated a new set of stormwater management regulations, much stricter than what we had in place before. This project or whatever happens here will most likely trigger those stormwater management rules. So there will probably be enhanced stormwater management. State of New Jersey is extremely concerned about managing stormwater runoff, making sure that it's adequately managed, both as far as treatment of contaminants that may be in the water and also managing the quantity or the flow of stormwater as it runs off properties. The DEP regulations are incorporated into our own set of ordinances. So any construction, whether it's at the advanced property or anywhere, so not even specific to this ORV, but any, what the term that DEP uses is major development, which major does not always mean so major. Essentially anything greater than a quarter acre or more of impervious cover will trigger those stormwater requirements. So any development in New Jersey will have to abide by that. And the rules in New Jersey are just getting stricter and stricter on stormwater management. So that's already built into our ordinances and requirements.
Okay, thanks. And then the other question, if the buffers are increased between our yards and the land behind for, any building that might take place, the area where we spoke about that they had taken some of the trees down to put put different, I guess they were, doing different measurements and testing in the pits that they were testing, used to test. We are also still concerned about putting the buffer back between the traffic that's on 206 because of the fact that our privacy and our privacy and our safety, we just felt like before there were trees and a buffer, so you didn't see the traffic. It wasn't as easy to come off the road if there's an accident, or even someone who might pull over on the side and be able to walk in the back. We just were wondering if if there's also a plan to make sure that also, as much as we can, to still have to put back some type of buffer so that we're not seeing the traffic of 206, and so that it's not as easy for cars or people that might have to pull over to kind of go back in our yards, behind our yards, which.
I'll turn to Committeeman Hickey, who spoke with me after he met with you all.
Okay.
And then both Committeeman Hickey and I spoke with Attorney Bellardo. And Colin, if you want to talk about 407.6D.
D, exactly, which talks about that buffer, which has been doubled in size. And as the mayor mentioned before, currently in the ordinance, there can be greenscaping there, but it might just be a lawn. So technically, the property owner right now could remove those trees, subject to the ordinance in terms of tree removal, and plant grass there, low shrubs, and maintain that 50-foot zone. What we have done is double the size of that zone to 100 feet, and also required much more stringent screening. And it's spelled out in that subsection D of the ordinance. So that would provide you some protection, screening from those buildings. Now realize, I know there are trees there almost to the edge of 206 today. There's no requirement to preserve those should they decide to change something on the property. They have to maintain that buffer of 100 feet. But further on towards 206, again, subject to the tree removal ordinance, they could change that property, and that is their right as property owner. So we're trying to do the best of both worlds, which is give them some flexibility, but at the same time provide you the security, the screening, visual buffer that you're looking for. I think we've accomplished that.
And the language that's in there requires, any development that is adjacent to the VN2, and it specifically mentions certain properties, lots 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, in block 33, which John
Looked at a tax map.
Yeah.
Any residential homeowner.
John gave it
that
the great
abuts
name
this.
of adjacent lots, so that's
Adjacent
a great
lots.
definition there, John. Shall also be required to, within the planted buffer of 100 feet, submit a landscape plan to and approved by the land use board requiring the developer to liberally install trees, shrubs, and ground cover to buffer, and screen the adjacent lots. Screening shall be achieved by fencing, earth forms, so that could be a berm, and planting applied singly or in combination as necessary. So that's the screening. So there's an affirmative obligation to make sure that your properties, you and your neighbors, that there's plantings and screening. Once again, it could be mounds, and we see this elsewhere. We actually see it right by your house.
Right,
by your
the berm and the pine trees on
Yeah,
top.
if you go down Clucas Brook, you see that berm where the pine trees are located. That actually was a requirement of the application for, geez, I guess that was maybe Pfizer way back when.
The dendrite or whatever.
Dendrite, yeah. So those earthworks, they do work and they end up being planted.
And this is based on my experience as a municipal attorney for many municipalities, including presently Bernards Township and Bound Brook and Raritan Township in Hunterdon County. I also represent planning and zoning boards of adjustment. So this type of language has been utilized in the past to allow a land use or a planning board to have leverage over a developer by requiring a landscape plan, essentially saying this works or this doesn't work. And so it's going to give our land use board the ability to ensure that those adjacent lots are properly protected. And I firmly believe that this will accomplish that task, and that's why this was put in there along with, as Committeeman Hickey said, the 150 feet requirement to your lots and the limitation that anything has to be 35 feet, which essentially is two stories, which is the size of a house. Nothing can be taller than that. So we really worked hard based upon initial input from the residents that came here. I took out a tax map. Ms. Ray gave it to me. I know where all your properties are. They're all included, and we think and firmly believe that this will work.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I was just thinking too, like, to save like the backdrop and the look of Bedminster for the town itself, I just figured if that buffer in any way could also have some type of screening against the traffic on 206, I just feel like it would just, help to maintain the character and like the historic feel, and also like the nature that's been there. I'm just thinking that it just gives a nice feel of having that, some of that nature in those trees, so that you don't feel like you're just, like the highway is just right there. I just feel like it would look, it would affect the kind of the look and the charm of the community. And also, again, just wondering if that buffer could possibly also be screened towards like 206 and the traffic. It's just
Well, we do have, there is still a side yard setback that also imposes those similar obligations. It's not as stringent as the one regarding the backs of your property, but certainly the side that you were concerned about, the strip coming down, that's going to be within the rear yard setback and within that 100-foot planted buffer that you just described. So 100 feet is a pretty, I got to say, this is a very robust screening obligation.
Okay, yeah, and thanks for listening, because we were just also thinking of, like we said, that area by 206. And then also just quickly, with the buffer, there are some clauses that mention if there's a driveway or a sidewalk or a parking lot, that you then wouldn't have to have the mentioned buffer. Do we have to have concern that if they decide to put a driveway, sidewalk, or parking lot behind our properties, that then the buffer could be removed? Or?
No,
Yeah.
no, paragraph D is specific.
Okay,
So
so regardless.
that's the 150-foot buffer, your 100-foot planted buffer, that's it.
It's
Can't
gonna-
be disturbed.
That's all, that's all they can do, is
Okay,
put
so it would stay
buffering
there.
and landscaping back there. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
I just
Thank you,
wondered.
Ms. Reykjavik.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. You got to come up.
Almost asked the question belonging. I just wondered if the bigger trees can be preserved in the buffer zone. I mean, the bigger-
Got to give your name and address.
Right, okay.
I'm not a resident, so, but I just wondered.
Well, we'll take your name anyway.
Susan Schundler.
Okay.
I just wondered if the bigger trees that are in the buffer zone can be preserved.
Yes.
Because those can't be replaced.
Yes, they can, because part of the landscape plan that for this 100-foot buffer zone, part of the landscape plan that the board will look at, they'll certainly look at existing trees within that buffer zone to decide whether it's a proper landscape plan that it should be approved by the board.
That would be wonderful.
And we do have a tree ordinance that requires applications for taking down trees. And a quick reminder, the trees, for the bigger trees, they're measured at what's called DBH, diameter at breast height, not at the base. So I know,
Those,
I believe your
once
husband
those are gone,
showed some plans
it's
to.
so long
Yeah.
to replace them, and then maybe they wouldn't even replace them with those kinds of trees. So
Right.
that would be a wonderful way to preserve.
Oftentimes, and just in development, the land use board may impose evergreens or pines so that you get protection and you get the screening year-long.
Which are
So
good.
you may
Yeah.
see, certainly an ash tree, which we don't have it many anymore. That could come down, but that would be replaced with an evergreen that would actually provide enhanced protection.
Right. And noise protection.
Right, yeah,
Right,
yes.
right.
Right.
And you would see on any application that came before the land use board, those trees would be identified, those for removal and what would be replanted, and you could make comments on those. That is something that's taken very seriously at the land use board.
And so the residents could actually
You would see the
point
plan.
out trees that they would hope
Yes.
Yep,
would be
yep.
preserved.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one question.
You got to come back up so it can be on the recording.
Kelly, we need you back up here.
Sorry, in here.
Oh, no.
Sorry, I have to read.
You gotta
Pick
get
you up on
there,
the
so
mic.
that folks out there, so that Walter and all the other folks who are watching via Zoom can hear you clearly.
Okay, sorry, I forgot to ask the question. When it says that us as the residents that are backing to that area of the zone that we're speaking of, the zoning change that we're speaking of, it said that we could submit a landscape plan or to discuss with the land use board, as neighbors and that all of us that back to that area. Will we be notified as to when that would be that you would want us to help contribute?
Yeah, typically what happens when they submit plans to the land use board, they're required to notify all property owners within 200 feet. If they're along a county road or state road, the county and state registered utilities, so you'll receive sufficient advance notice of the meeting, at least 10 days, and you'll have the opportunity to come down and look at the plans that are filed with the land use secretary, and then obviously attend all the hearings.
Okay, and then would it be that a plan would be proposed for the landscape?
Yeah, typically, if you look at these plans that are submitted by developers, they're massive rolls of sheets. You might have 25 sheets that show the general nature of the neighborhood, the site plan proposed, the drainage plan, the stormwater plan, and typically there's a sheet that shows in great detail what's called the landscaping plan. And you'll be able to see where your lots are and what they're proposing to do and submit. Sometimes with a landscaping plan, they might also submit a report from a landscaping consultant that's submitted to the board as well. And oftentimes, they may also have a landscaping consultant expert testify under oath. And then you get to ask questions, and you're also allowed to testify at hearings as well. So it's a very transparent process.
Okay, so like in that time, if there were certain types of trees, like you were suggesting, that might be good all year round, or whatever it might be, we could discuss that at that time.
Well, you could come forward and ask the person that presents the landscape plan questions about the nature of the trees and whether these trees should be planted instead of these. You could ask all sorts of questions.
Okay.
And then at the end of these hearings, there's always an opportunity for residents to actually testify instead of ask questions. So you're typically also sworn at that time and you can offer testimony.
Okay, so like if they were to leave, say, the existing trees and maybe add some more trees or whatever the case may be, that's when we would discuss it, would be once it's at that stage where that's.
Yes, during the hearing process.
Okay.
On the record, just like you are now, because when these hearings take place, every word is recorded. So in case there's ever any questions or if there's any challenges to an approval or a denial, it's a transcript that goes down to a Superior Court judge in Somerville.
Okay.
That's why the mayor always asks people to come up and state their name and speak into the microphone, because you're being recorded for posterity right now.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Rutherford. Step up to the microphone. You do that.
Testing 1, 2. I am Greg Tania. I'm at 132 Somerville Road, block 30.
I'm sorry, could you spell your last name?
Yes, Kania, the former Mike and Sally Rubin residence.
We've met.
Yes, we have.
Yes,
we
how
have
are
met.
you?
I'm doing well, thank
Good.
you. So Block 36, Lot 10. I am across the street from the development happening here. The Reykjaviks are my neighbors. I also see another one of my neighbors virtually, Dominic Paragano. Some of the comments I'm about to make directly affect him as well. We also have a new neighbor, Dominic's at Lot 16. We also have a new resident in town, Anthony Melise, at Lot 17. You have the Reykjaviks at 18. Now, in the subsection D here, it talks about individual lots adjacent, in the VN2 zone, and you're referring to lots 16 through 20 in Block 33. Are you just specifically stating those lots, or are we talking about the lots all the way up to the street that, comes into the Bedminster School sort of area? Because Advanced Realty, for instance, has just acquired one of Thomas Westervelt's last lots at 15.01, okay, which is the empty lot right there, 1 acre square lot that backs up to that new development. He also obviously has acquired 1502. Advanced Realty. He's a smart guy. He's got a lot of deep pockets. He can buy a lot of things. One thing that I'm concerned about that I want on record for you to consider during the development period of this area is I really wouldn't want to see an ingress or egress street allowed to be built on that empty lot. It would directly affect Dominic Paragano's property. It would probably, I just don't want any streets built. We have one up there coming from Advance, coming into the school area. And we have the, triangle coming off of 206. Are there any thoughts, or do we know that that's not going to happen? Because that would directly affect that whole street.
Those properties are the VN2, so therefore they're not subject to this ordinance. Those properties are the VN2. VN2 allows residential and allows elements of commercial that are incorporated into residential development. So you see, what did we have in that area? You had
Antique shops, appliance shops, repair shops, barbers, galleries.
I do understand.
So if
VN2
a driveway cutting through the VN2 was to facilitate the commercial properties in the ORV, that's a use variance. And that would require approval by the Board of Adjustment. That is a very high threshold for approval.
Understood.
So I can't tell you what any board will do. I can give you my thoughts. I don't see a driveway coming from, whether it's that empty lot that would be in the VN2, that village neighborhood zone, to support the commercial uses back there. That would be a use variance. I don't see this land use board giving that approval. It's just an observation.
We were aware of the ownership of those, I believe it's 4 lots.
Right.
Yeah, but the last one was just
entities.
recently acquired.
Yeah, no, we were aware that was taken into consideration, so.
And they're still subject to the enhanced rear yard setback, but not to this planted buffer. Because a lot of that land is already sort of developed, it's already driveway.
Sure. That was my second question that I had, was as we listed here, lots 16 to 20, which was very kind. I know my neighbors went and you expanded the 100-yard, which is amazing. I'm sure with the site plan and everything, you've got to go and make it right. But so those other 2 lots, like 15.01 and 1502, they won't have trees built because us living across the street, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't tell you what will be there. It will still be subject to a rear yard setback, and I believe that's the 100-foot rear yard setback.
Correct. And I think there's also a buffer requirement there now.
Is there?
I believe so. I'd have to take a look.
Because I know those lots that he acquired, they jut out a
You're
little
absolutely
bit.
right. You're
Yeah,
absolutely
It's a
right.
50-foot buffer.
Yeah,
right
if you read the first sentence of D, the minimum setback dimensions shall include a planted buffer of 51, now it's 100 feet.
Yeah, yeah.
So 50 is deleted, it's 100 feet in width along any common property line within a residential district. So VN2 is a residential district.
I mean, understood.
And there's also a reference to subsection 13804.2D, which also has buffering requirements in general for many zones.
Have there been any plans submitted from Advance to adjust that property line? Because 1501 and 1502,
No.
they bump out far.
No.
You know, have they adjusted them this way at all?
No, and by the way, even if, I'll turn to John, but even if they're adjusted, the zones are the zones, right?
Zones are the zones, we were aware of that. These properties can't be used that he acquired for this.
So even if they tried to merge a lot, that doesn't
Okay, it
change
cannot be
the zone.
merged.
Oh, he
Doesn't
can,
change the
he
zone.
can merge lots.
He can merge lots, but
He
doesn't
can't
change the
use
zone.
them for this particular development or site plan that's envisioned.
Understood, but it would be a possibility if you ever wanted to take those VN2 lots he owns and make them ORV.
No.
Oh, okay.
You can merge lots, but you don't change
Yeah,
zones.
the town would have, the town would have to
So land
change
that's
the zone.
in,
Understood.
so land that's in VN2, even if it got merged, it then becomes what's called a split zone.
Understood.
So the property is subject to an ORV zone over here, and then a VN2 over there.
Okay. Great. That answers all my questions. The biggest thing was just, those across the street too, want to look at trees.
And we're going to
also.
see you at the farmer's market again.
Of course, you'll
Okay,
see
all
me
right, good.
when I'm not on vacation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions from the Zoom participants?
That's any hands raised there.
Mr. Roden, we're going to need your name and address.
Michael Roden, Spencer Lane, Pluckman. Didn't read the ordinance, just sitting here listening to comments, listening to what Mrs. Roden said about the space set aside. There's also what we have seen traveling around is dollar amount set aside for artwork, so to say. So you go to some cities and there's really weird stuff on buildings and you wonder why, but it's artwork. But what brings me to that is some of the conversations about the buffering to the highway. And when you look at both properties that are affected by this, down in Pluckman Park, whatever, it's buffered all the way around. It's buffered by buildings, by commercial buildings, all the way around and highway on the other side. And you talked about the AT&T building. Again, that's buffered, it's not visible. But the Forbes property is out there, it's straightforward in the front, and it is a little bit different than the other property as far as I'm concerned, which brings me back to my original statement that it's not just land use, land area put aside for public use or whatever use, but it's also could be a percentage to do something that's different, that makes, this building stands out, so what makes it different? What's always made a difference to me growing up here was that it was the Research Cottrell building, then it was the Forbes building, and it was just one building there, and it stood out in a field on its own, and it made a statement about Bedminster, because it was all this open space. That will not be the future of that land. It's going to be developed, I'm sure. And in that development and in this ordinance, I think what I'm looking for is some sort of mechanism that is going to require something above and beyond that makes a statement whether it's space for public to use, or whether it's art that makes the building stand out, that this is different, this is Bedminster. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roden.
I can't help myself.
Seeing no other comments, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
We should state for the record, although you did so earlier, Mayor, that the planning board has indicated that this ordinance is not inconsistent with the master plan, so we've satisfied that requirement of municipal land use law.
Okay, thank you, John. Any further comments or questions from the Township Committee? Now I take a motion to approve. It's been so long, I forgot what ordinance number we were.
So moved.
I didn't get there yet.
Oh, sorry.
Ordinance to approve ordinance number 2023-015.
So moved.
Thank
Second.
The connection's not great.
Your roll call vote, please. Committeeman Hickey.
Aye.
Committeewoman Moreski.
Aye.
Committeewoman Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
And thank you to all the residents from Somerville Road who came out and worked with Committeeman Hickey on providing their comments. And I hope you're pleased that your comments were considered and incorporated into the final document. So thank you for your participation. We do have one additional ordinance to approve tonight. I just got to go back and find my agenda. And Committeeman Hickey is going to try to find Committeeman Stevenson.
Found it.
That's 1313B, ordinance number 2023-016. This ordinance appropriates $68,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund for various equipment for the Bedminster Township Public Works. Take a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 2023-016.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Ms. Ray,
Aye.
68,000 for,
So, Mayor, this is for a skid steer to be purchased by the Public Works Department. Our other skid steer is on its last leg. We went through the budget process, determined that it's going to cost close to $68,000 for a new skid steer. So this money, this ordinance actually appropriates funding to make that purchase.
certainly the Township Committee, we discussed this with Director Kevin Murray during the budget process. But any further questions or comments regarding the ordinance from Township Committee members?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, we'll take a motion to open. Wait, John, do I need a motion to open public comment, or do we just go to public comment?
You can just go to public comment.
Let's go to public comment. Any members of the public have questions regarding ordinance 2023-016 to purchase a skid steer for $68,000? Seeing none, take a motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2023-016.
So moved.
Second. Move.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go. Consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent.
We have to vote on it.
Oh, geez, I've done this before. I'll take a motion to approve ordinance 2023-016.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Committeeman Stevenson?
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey?
Aye.
Committeewoman Moreski?
Aye.
Committeewoman Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move to the consent agenda. My apologies. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. These are items of a routine nature. However, any member of the Township Committee may pull an item off for individual consideration. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call vote again, please. Committeeman Stevenson?
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey?
Aye.
Committeewoman Moreski?
aye.
Committeewoman Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
And we have no other resolutions for tonight's meeting. We'll take a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call vote again, please. Committeeman Stevenson?
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey?
Aye.
Committeewoman Moreski?
Aye.
Committeewoman Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Does any member of the Township Committee have anything for discussion under new business? Old business?
I can give you some updates if you want.
Yeah, I think we can probably skip the DOT improvements, but I do want, oh, you know what? Let me, just while we're on DOT improvements, we'll give a special shout out to resident, should I give his name? Sure. Oh, he's here all the time. Bob Shirley, for pointing out the error in 2 of the DOT signs on 202, 206 north by the King's Shopping Center. The error shows straight, 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 and right. The far left is a left only into the DOT construction yard. It should not be straight, it should be left only.
On 206 north?
202, 206 north.
South.
South of
No,
Kings.
yeah,
South of Kings, you're traveling north.
North.
Yeah.
South
At
of
that line.
King, north.
They made a mistake. They made a mistake going into their own yard.
Correct.
Whoa. You can't make a left there.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Yes,
That's
you can.
the construction
You can make a
yard.
left at the Kings?
It's only for DOT, nobody else.
No.
You should do it tonight.
I should. I've never done that before.
Go, make the left, go into the construction yard.
I would
Yeah,
like
it's there.
You know
making
what?
a left there. I'll give him the horn and be like, you can't do that.
The left turn is probably not used very often during the day.
No,
but,
never.
you know,
You can make it that left?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Otherwise, I don't think
I'm
that.
gonna do it.
Yeah,
let's do
you and Greg, get down there.
Dumpster diving.
Yeah, I've probably seen it 10 times in all the years I've been here, but that's how they get in the building.
That's crazy.
So while we're on DOT signage, I just thought I'd point that out, and thank you to Bob Shirley. And I did relay that message to Meredith Hammond, our municipal liaison at DOT. Haven't heard back from Meredith. Okay, now we'll hit utilities.
Just 2 quick updates, Mayor. JCP&L, I received an update from our municipal liaison that JCP&L crews have been performing physical inspections of equipment and will be following up with infrared camera inspections. This is obviously in response to our complaints that the power, which has never been good, has been going off more regularly, and obviously our concerns that needs to be addressed immediately. So they have the crews out there. Once the assessments are complete and the weaknesses are identified, remediation will be performed. That may include either additional forestry management or replacing and repairing equipment, which is something we've been asking for all along. So I also asked her for a date of when they will come back here and appear in front of us and be subject to questions and comments from the public. So hopefully that happens in August or September. That would be our preference.
At this point, honestly, I prefer September.
September, right, because obviously, right. Altice, I have no real update, but I did want to share some feedback I received yesterday from Rich Costa, who's the president of the Wood Duck Pond HOA. He indicated that the Altice construction team has been very, very cooperative in working with them. Realized that at the same time the fiber install is going on, Wood Duck Pond is also doing a major roofing and siding replacement for older units in that development. So the Altice site manager has been working hand in hand with the association and the other subcontractors to make sure everything goes smoothly. They are literally on the phone on conference calls every day. Okay, I'm going to be working here, you're going to be doing that, so they don't trip over one another. So it's nice to hear that the assurances we got from Altice right up front, that they would coordinate, they would plan carefully, they would make sure that they don't disturb what they don't need to. Those are all, they're upholding their end of the bargain, so it's nice to see that.
And do we know the progress of Verizon's work?
I have not been noticed on Verizon. I know they went in there and did some digging a couple of months ago, but we received no communication from them.
Okay. And let's see, so we've covered electricity, cable, anything on water?
Nothing I've heard.
All right, Pluckman Park Housing, I don't believe we have any update survey for discussion. We do not have an executive session tonight, so we'll go through Township Committee comments, and we'll start with Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. No comments other than to just thank you for the introductory comments about Ms. O'Reilly and Gary Rupert. I think it's important to let folks know that these kind of things happen so that they can get the word out. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. So congratulations and kudos are in order. Not only are Doug and Susie Stevenson two of the hardest working volunteers for both Bedminster School and Berners High, they're also customers. And recently, we have some congratulations to Brady Stevenson on his graduation from Bedminster School, and big brother Cody, who just graduated Berners High and is now joining the freshman class at Sacred Heart University.
Thank you.
Job well done by everybody involved.
That's right.
And by the way, when was the last time there was no Stevenson at Bedminster School?
2007?
So think about that. All right, 2007, the dedication that I know you guys you have poured your heart and soul into, from being the coach to being the volunteer to Susie being the president of the school board and serving on the school board. You guys have been an amazing and integral part of Bedminster Schools. Thank you.
And you're also saying that we're old, but thank you.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. It's all good. Congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And as you know, it doesn't get easier in college or high school.
Oh, no.
Or after college.
No, we're figuring that out too.
That's
Letting you all know. Committeewoman Mareski.
I just want to extend my condolences to the O'Neill and the Rupert families, and my congratulations to our officers who were sworn in tonight. It's fabulous.
Great. Thank you. Committeewoman Fernandez.
I'd just like to reiterate what Renee said. To the O'Neill family and the Rupert family, my deepest condolences. And congratulations to our new officers and our promoted sergeant. And also congratulations to the Stevenson family. And good night.
Good night. And thank you to Committeewoman Fernandez and Committeewoman Mareski for joining us from vacation.
Yes.
Parts unknown.
Parts unknown. You don't have to tell us where you are, but they might be better than New Jersey. So thank you for joining us tonight. And I just want to give a special thank you to all our residents who came out tonight. Whether you agree with us and you give us kudos or you disagree with us, your participation is important and critical to making sure that we stay on our toes. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn for the evening.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
That'll wait too good.
You can ask a question. We're not, meeting's over.